From the center of the universe, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, this is the SDM Show with your host, Rob Cairns. The SDM Show focuses on business, life, productivity, digital marketing, WordPress, and more. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite drink, and enjoy the show. Here is Rob.
Hey, everybody, Rob Cairns here. I'm the founder, CEO, and chief technologist at Stunning Digital Marketing. In today's show, I have Jason Rosado with me. And Jason's a business coach, and we're going to talk about why you need a business coach. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. This episode is brought to you by All-in-One WP Migration, the most trusted WordPress migration plugin with over 60 million sites served. Whether you are switching hosts, changing domains, or moving to a new server, All-in-One WP Migration makes it one click. Try it for free at WordPress.org or visit servemass.com for pro features. Here we go. Hey, everybody, Rob Cairns here, and today I have my guest, Mr. Jason Rosado. Hey, Jason, how are you doing today?
Great, Rob. Thanks. How are you?
Not too bad. Coming to us from the great city of Chicago, one of my favorite cities in the U.S. So welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're a business coach, and I always like to ask, how did you get into business coaching? Like, what's your background, and how did you get there?
Yeah. Well, gosh, how much time do we have? It's one of
Lots.
those stories. It was, so when I'm working with small business owners, I advise them to focus on their passion areas, focus
Yep.
on things that they love doing, right? Because they're going to be the
Yep.
best at it. They're going to, really push themselves, elevate them, give them energy. That's going to help them build their business scale. And with me, it was no different. What ended up happening is my last full-time corporate job, I was training manager at the company I was at. We did audio, video, and web conferencing. We had about 120 employees. I was running the training department, so training entry level through director level, also doing customer quality assurance. And we were sold to a larger competitor. So this is 20 years ago, it's 2006. I had to figure out what to do next. As I was job searching, I put in coaching as a search term because I thought, well, I coach my employees. Something just occurred to me to put it in. I put it in. So I came across, I don't know if you remember, there was this company, they might still be around, called Learning Annex. Does that ring a
I
bell?
do. I don't think they're
Okay.
around anymore, but I do know who they are. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. Yeah. And so they would they would rent out classrooms. I think they were headquartered in New York, in like Soho. And they would rent out classrooms, bring in a teacher on some subject, have the teacher teach about it, video record it, and then sell the recordings.
Yeah.
So as I was job searching, I put in coaching as a search term. And I came across one of their classes recorded called "What is Professional Coaching?" or something like that. And I read the description and I was like, well, I don't know what they're talking about, but it really sounds interesting. It sounds kind of up my alley.
Yeah.
So let me go ahead and buy this back then videotape, get it shipped to me, watch it. So as I was watching it, I was thinking, oh my gosh, it turns out I had had this idea of being a coach a few years before that. As I was sitting in the corporate world in another leadership position, this time at a mutual fund company. And again, I had a team there. I had a team of 15 investment reps that I managed. I helped to manage the 300-seat call center. And I thought, even though I had only been in corporate for a few years, before that, I had a restaurant. And I was thinking to myself, boy, I miss working for myself like I did at the restaurant. And before that, I used to teach music lessons, but that goes back to like I started when I was in 8th grade. I started teaching music lessons and did that through high school. And I just thought, I really miss working for myself and just helping people and helping people move forward. And I said, at this point, I have hired hundreds of people. Now, they didn't all work for my team, but I helped, to hire them into this 300-seat call center. I had done tons of corporate training, had managed people, helped people move into leadership. I had been out of work myself. And I just realized, even my wife and I, we met through an online dating site in 2000. So this is before it was popular, before all the kids were doing it. And I just realized all these different things had transferable skills. It was just, where are you now? Where do you want to be? What's in the way? And then what's a strategy map to make it happen? And I
That's
thought,
awesome.
yeah, I was thinking it'd be really great to just hire myself out. I don't want to work for the corporate anymore. Just work for myself, hire myself out to individuals, help them, get a job if they're out of work, help them move into leadership if they want to do that, help them date better, whatever it was. And I don't know what I'd call it, maybe like professional consulting or something like
Yeah.
that. But this was like a fleeting thought as I was working one day,
Mm.
and it was so amorphous, and I didn't know how, it wasn't concrete, and it was like a really idea that intrigued me, but I didn't know how to do anything with it. So I just thought, oh, okay, one day, back to work, and just kept working. So I fast forward a few years. Now I'm in this role of training manager, and our company sold. I get laid off. I figure out what to do next. I'm job searching, come across that, watch the video, and go, oh man, that's it. That's that idea that was in my
Yeah.
head. I
Yeah.
could do it. It's a real thing. So, the one thing that many coaches do is just they say, well, I've got a lot of experience, I've led teams, led departments, or I've been in business myself, or whatever they've done. And they just say, okay, I'm a coach. And then they try to get clients. And I thought I should try to do this the right way and actually go through a coach training program, even though I did have all that experience. I want to make sure I'm doing this the right way. So I did. So I went through Coach U, went through their fast track program, because at the time I was also working for Microsoft as a product sales trainer, doing that part time, traveling around the country, training people, doing classroom style learning, huge events, being on stage in front of 200 people. Sometimes it was just
Mhm.
one-on-one training, like all
Yeah.
over the map, but really enjoying that. But also knew it was going to take some time to get my business going. So I did this fast track program so that wouldn't interfere with my travel schedule for, this other job. So I did that 20 years ago, and here we are today. It was a great fit and it's
Yeah.
worked. And I really love it.
Yeah. You have a pretty diverse background, I would say. And I would say also what comes across really right away in talking, your passion is being an educator. Because that's really
Yeah.
what coaching is. It's an education. And I know there's coaches that are going to send me hate mail. That's fine. Send it. Because really you're educating people how to do better. And it's really interesting. You were saying when you had this, you were at one time a music teacher. I'll share with you, one
Yeah.
of my mentors in the marketing game started off as an award-winning jazz pianist, if you can
Oh,
believe that.
wow.
And then he realized there's no money in jazz music. He's awesome. He still plays
Mhm.
today. And he got into seminars and running a digital marketing agency, a very successful one.
Yeah.
And one of his things was again teaching. He's very much like you. He's a world educator, and I think educators, and my best friend's one. I've got my partner's sister's a teacher. I know a number of university teachers. They're really special people as far as I'm concerned, because
Yeah.
you're more than just an educator. Sometimes you got to be a social worker. Sometimes you got to
Oh,
be, a little bit of everything. And it takes a lot of hard work and a lot of mental stability to put yourself in that role.
oh, yeah. Absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned that. I was thinking that made me think of, I think it was about 10 years ago, I was doing some
Yeah.
rebranding, and I was thinking, okay, what do I want to do, like, title wise? Would I just stick with business coach, or do I want to make it more, interesting? And so I sent an email to a bunch of my old clients
Mm.
and said, I'm trying to remember now. I haven't thought about this in a long time. I said, fill in this blank. Jason is my blank. And, see if they put in like business coach, executive coach, whatever. And there were some different things like that. Some people said career coach, business growth. One person wrote professional ass kicker.
I love it.
And it was so funny because then I spoke with her and I said, you see me that way? And she said, yeah, because I don't see myself as an ass kicker at all. I'm very like, we find where you're stuck, and then sort of,
Yeah.
it's like
You don't
ninja.
come across that way either.
Yeah,
No,
I don't see myself that way.
no,
I'm not like,
no.
come on, how come you didn't do this? What's
Uh,
wrong with you? It's like, all right,
Right.
you got stuck. You didn't do what you said you were going to do. Let's break that down, figure out why, and then figure out how you can do it now. Right.
Yeah. It's
So
funny
that was really interesting.
you say that. I think many physicians, doctors should be called ass kickers because
Yeah.
we all know the great doctors. the tough ones, if you do everything you're supposed to do, they're great. But if not,
Right.
they're not happy with you at all. So I
Yeah.
get that.
Well, this is
Um,
this is a pet peeve of mine, is I think every doctor should have to go through coach training.
yeah,
Because what they do is I'll be sitting on somebody's table, they're like, do this, do this, do this. I don't have anything to write notes with. I'm just trying to remember it all. And then I don't see them for a year. And so did I do that stuff? No. Right.
yeah,
I think and it might not be stuff that I understand or I agree with, or in coaching is the process of making sure you're taking information, but it sticks and it gets
yeah.
executed,
I
you
agree.
know?
I
Yeah.
agree.
I had to get
One
that in there because it's a pet peeve.
Yeah, well, I love that. One of the things you said, right on, and I so resonate, and you and I talked before we came to do this interview, was stick with what your passion is. And you made that clear right off the top. And I so
Yeah.
love that because too many small business owners try to do everything, including their non-passion, what doesn't make them money. And then
Mhm.
they keep going on that. So I'll give you an example. I'm busy, very busy, and my mom's 81, and my mom couldn't figure out for the longest time why I order 90% of what comes in to me. So it's either Amazon or Walmart or some other delivery service. And I think the coup du jour was the day she walked in and said, "You didn't order 3 cases of Dr. Pepper, did you?" And I'm like, "Yep." And she's like, "Why didn't you go get it?" I said, "Because I paid for the delivery service and I'm billing out my clients at 130, 140, $150 an hour. This does not compute."
Yeah.
So what
Yeah.
do you think?
Yeah. Man, yeah, so something that happens to me when I'm in the
Yeah,
car and
yeah,
I'll route out my map out my route, right, wherever I'm going.
yeah,
And it
yeah,
says like to take a toll road. And well, for instance, we went to Michigan
yeah.
um, last weekend. And from Chicago, you have to go to the Sky Bridge,
Hmm.
and that's a $15 toll. And they don't have signs up saying they used to back in the old days. Remember, it was like 40 cents for
Yeah, of
tolls and stuff.
course.
But now there's no sign. It doesn't tell you how much you're paying. So most people don't even pay attention or think about it. So there's another route that you can just go right around on another interstate. And depending on traffic, it adds anywhere from like 3 minutes to 10 minutes.
Yeah,
And now if we're in extreme hurry, so I'm in the car with my family, if we're in extreme hurry, yeah, we'll spend that money and do it. But oftentimes I look at it and I think I did the math where because on the way home it was literally like 3 minutes extra to go around the $15 ridge. And I did the math in my head and I was like, that's like $225 an hour.
yeah.
I think that's
That's
the bargain of a lifetime to take the extra 3 minutes and go around. But same
because
thing,
so.
because what can that's money, time is money, and sometimes
Mhm.
spending a little bit more time is well worth it, in the savings. I mean, both directions, it's $30. $30, that's a meal. So,
Yeah, yeah. One of those things you never get back in life is time. It's kind of finite. We
yeah,
can't. It's 24 hours a day. We got most of us sleep. I don't know about you, but I sleep 8 to 9. So that leaves me
good for
at
you.
15. Oh no, I force myself to. But you get
Yeah,
where I'm going, right? And it's like,
yeah,
what do
right.
you do? And
Yeah.
and
I
and
was
the
gonna say,
other,
yeah, it goes both ways. You want to
yeah,
spend your time doing things where you get the highest return, and there's always somebody who can do it cheaper, better, and faster than you can if it's not something that you absolutely love. So again, going back to the passion area. So
mhm,
when I'm working with small business owners, getting them to double or triple their revenue, in 6 to 12 months, that's how we do it. Focusing on your
yeah,
passion areas that you're really good at, you're going to get the best return on that.
yeah. And the other thing is, I always say this in my business. I don't live to run my business. I run my business so I have a good life. There's a big difference. And when you turn that around and you say, what do you mean by that? And one of the things I don't do, emergencies happen and we all have bad weeks. But as a rule, I don't work more than 40 hours in a week. I generally don't. I've been there. I was a senior lead at a hospital in healthcare in IT.
Mm.
I was on call all the time. I got dragged into projects. I got dragged in all kinds of stuff. I can remember times in my career when I was working 60, 70 hours a week. And I said, no more. I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah.
And they said, but the money, you're not going to make better your lifestyle by working more. You're actually going to make it worse, believe it or not. So,
Yeah. You're right. Your health, your time with your family, all of that, your stress level. Yeah. The more, yeah, once you get past a certain level, unless again, and I don't believe in anything is absolute. So there are some people who might want to work 80 hours a week. They absolutely love
yes,
it. It's their thing. Not me.
not me neither.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
No, and then the other thing is, and you and I talked about this, and I really want to go down this road. Most small business owners don't manage their time well. I'm sorry.
no, no.
No, I see it, and I don't believe there's an absolute way to do it. But to give you a bit of history, I remember being a young man in the workforce, and I used to keep a paper calendar, like many of us.
Mhm. Yeah.
And Toronto used to be one of the sites of the big Comdeck shows, if you remember those. So back in the day, the big tech shows every year.
Mm.
So I went to Comdex because my boss wanted me to go. And at the time, I hated trade shows. Now I love them, but that's another story. And I entered in a draw. And what did I walk out of that with? A one at the time, $1,000 Palm Pilot. You remember the Palm
Oh, wow.
Pilots, the
Yeah,
PDAs
sure.
back
Yeah.
then. And this was pre smartphones and pre anything.
Right.
And I switched my time management very quickly from paper to electronic almost overnight for me.
Right. Hmm.
And for me that was a big deal and a big help. And I'm not saying that's the absolute for everybody. Some people do really well with a paper journal. But I
Yeah.
think, or a paper schedule, but I think you got to do something, don't you?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Repeat that last part. It cut out a little bit.
You have to do something when you're doing time management. You can't just
Yeah.
throw all your hands in the air and say, I'll figure it out tomorrow. That doesn't work.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And, right. I don't believe in one size fits all.
Yeah, me
Everybody's
neither.
different. Yeah. And you really have to figure out where your energy is for
Mhm.
different tasks during
Yeah.
different parts of the day and different parts of the week, and then match those up. And also, I mean, I was working with a client yesterday on this. He's a realtor. He has ADHD, which a lot of
Mm,
entrepreneurs do,
I do.
diagnosed and otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do as well. It's not officially diagnosed, but this is something I figured out over the past like 6 to 8 months. And I've heard from other people who really know about this stuff and confirmed, again, not officially, but they're like, yes, you do. I'm like, okay. Sorry, but so much of my life came into focus when I started figuring this out. Um, and we were working, the challenge with him in particular with this in his again, ADHD is a spectrum. Some are very minimally impacted by it, and some quite, to a great extent. And he's more on the great extent portion. And so what we're working on with him is creating morning routines because he has a problem with his vision of, and it's interesting. He kept coming back to for a good solid, I don't know. Well, we've been working together now for a few months, and I'd say for like a good solid month and a half, he kept coming back to, I need to know my why. I need to know my why
Yeah.
because I just don't have
Yeah.
motivation. And I said, well, look, I think the why is important, but I also think it gets hyped up more than it
Yeah.
should,
Yeah.
right? It's good to know why you're into something, but you really only need to identify that once, and then you backtrack and create your action steps, and you have to be into those action steps. You have to be
Mhm.
enjoying them. They have to resonate with you and lift you up and energize you. And if you're doing that, then you're going to do the things you need to do to be successful. And
Yep.
then you have to you have to match those action steps to where it lines up in your natural energy to get them done. So you're not fighting yourself, you're not fighting your mind, you're not fighting, these different patterns that we have. So I don't think there is one size fits all. There are tips and strategies that can help, but they have to be massaged.
Yeah. A little bit. Morning routines are really important. I know I've got one and I've stuck
Yeah.
to one for years. So I usually, and I have an evening routine too. I have to tell you,
Hmm.
it's pretty well the same. So typically my morning starts, I'm out of bed, and you're going to laugh. Most people either reach for a smartphone or they
Yeah.
reach for a coffee real quick. Like
Right.
that's kind of the quickies. I do
Right.
neither. I'm out the door for a walk for an hour.
Ah,
What before I even get moving.
that's great.
Then when I come in, it's breakfast time. I'm diabetic. It's medication time. It's. And do you notice none of this has the word smartphone or computer in there yet?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and that's the key. I think people who jump on their laptops and their smartphones getting out of bed, that's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah.
I really believe that.
I 100% believe it too. And, you know, none of us are perfect. So
Yep.
admission, I have my phone next to my bed and I know better. And I didn't always have it next to my bed. My life was better when I didn't. And that's something that I need to change. And I appreciate you bringing it up because I was thinking about that this morning. And I'm gonna do that tonight. I'm gonna move it across
The
the room.
the only reason my phone is next to my bed is for diabetes. I wear a Libra, which
Okay.
is for those who don't know, is real-time glucose monitoring. And if my glucose shifts in the middle of the night, it'll beep at me. Besides that, I won't touch it.
Okay.
And my partner and I, when we're together, we actually have a deal that beyond that, there's no devices in the bedroom. We're actually moving together very soon, and there's not even a TV going in the bedroom. So there you go.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I've never
nothing
had a
out.
TV in my bedroom. My wife and I agree also. No TV in
Yeah,
the
I agree.
bedroom. Yeah.
I agree.
We differ kind of on the advice. I'm sorry, on the device aspect of it. But she also similarly has it connected to a wristwatch that measures her sleep, stuff
Then I
like
get
that.
that.
Yeah. And then also she uses that for her alarm, which I do too sometimes. Actually, I've got an old school. It's about 30 years old alarm clock that I use.
So you're funny. I do not.
um, but when I travel and stuff, I use my phone. But I do put it on airplane mode. At when as soon as before I drift off, I always put it on airplane mode. And like I said, I used to actually keep it in a different room or across the room, depending. That's something I'm going to get back to also
Yeah.
because it's too
And
tempting to wake up and turn on and check.
yeah, and I think the other thing we're talking about is, and for entrepreneurs, I put this in this class: calendars, to-do lists. I hate the word to-do.
Mm.
Task list is better because I don't.
Okay.
I believe until a job goes on the calendar, you haven't allocated time to do it. And I that's my
Yeah.
belief. You might disagree with me, but I'm very much, if I have work to do for a client, it goes on the calendar for an hour and a half. If it's not there, it's probably not getting done today. That's kind of
Yes.
the way I function.
Yes.
And I've even had family members who call me in the middle of the day, say, "Do you have an hour?" No. Maybe
Hmm.
in 3 days I do, but no. And they're
Yeah.
like, "You really look out your calendar that stringent?" Yes.
Yes.
And I think I told you my calendar, most people describe as a kid's Crayola coloring book. It's
Oh
all
yeah.
color
Right.
coded. And
Yeah.
I tend to
Yeah.
work that way. But
Mine
it's
too.
not one size fits all.
Yeah, and what I'll do, I'll see your color coding and I'll raise you. I use two calendars with color coding.
Yeah.
So
I'm
the
sure.
one of them, and then I go to the other one when I've actually truly completed it, and then flip the color, the category
Awesome.
color, you know,
Okay.
so that even if I somehow it gets past me on Outlook, then I go to my Yahoo calendar and check everything there and see if are there any reds still there that I haven't done. So I color code all of my
Yeah.
action items. Like if I have a meeting with somebody, I'll make it red. Basically anything that's not social, anything business related. Well, even sometimes social stuff too. Like if it's helping my mom out with something, or I don't want to forget. But I'll make it red, and then I won't go back and change it until I've done every single follow up. If there's anything
Yeah.
related to what that was,
Yeah.
I'm not going to flip the color until it's done. And which means
Yeah.
sometimes it might be there for a month or two if it's not something super urgent. But then I have to go back and look at past months and just scan real quick and see, do I still have anything that's red?
Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah.
In all your years of coaching, because you've been doing it for a while, what's the number one problem you find with entrepreneurs?
What we just said. Number one problem is time. Not
It's
having enough
time, yeah.
time, having too much to
Beyond
do.
that, beyond time.
Beyond that,
Yeah.
well, so let's see. I think my brain's going in a bunch of different directions.
That's okay,
Um,
sure. Go
yeah,
ahead.
it's well, it's tied into it. It's getting support
Yeah,
and having good support,
yeah.
having good vendors, 1099 contractors, employees who make life and work easier for you.
And how about adding to that a good partner in life who supports what you do too?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when I'm working with clients, there are like five main
Yeah,
umbrella or focus group areas we
yeah,
work on. Number
yeah.
four
Please.
is optimizing your environment,
Yeah,
and that includes your relationships, both professional and personal.
yeah,
Because if those aren't optimized, man, trying to get anywhere is really hard. And so when I'm working with clients, yeah, we're working on business. Sometimes I have to veer off and start doing some relationship coaching,
yeah,
or even once in a while, some dating coaching, which is actually really fun for me.
yeah. I'm
Because my
sure.
wife and I get to live vicariously, married for, gosh, well, we had our anniversary last week, 22 years married, 26 years together.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun to do some vicarious living through clients that way. But, you
It's
know,
funny, but you're right. You're right
yeah.
because I was married earlier for 5 years, and
Hmm.
my ex-wife did not get what I did. No matter how much she
Mm.
explained it, no matter how much I did, no
Yeah.
matter how much she saw the money coming in, still didn't get what I did.
Yeah.
And that was the problem because she perceived that I was lazy. Yet, where did this money come from? Did it drop out of the sky?
Yeah.
And my partner says she's an office admin for a large insurance broker. She's been there for over 35 years. Like that's
Hmm.
unheard of in this day and age.
Yeah.
And she's forever asking me, she called me earlier today and said, "Oh, how's your day going? And what are you working on?" Just for fun.
Mm.
And I said, "Oh, I got this great podcast coming up. I'm sure," referring to one you and I are doing now. And I
Yeah.
had a couple other things going. And then she said to me, "You haven't killed anybody today?" I said, "No, not today, but But the point is,
Is that
there's a
on your
big
to-do list? I'm like,
no, 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 no.
how does that
But
come
the
up?
point,
All right.
yeah, the point I'm making is it's a big difference when your partner in life actually cares about what you do. And I shared this story quite a bit on the show 2.5 years ago. I think I might have told you. I had a diabetic scare, bad one.
Mm.
I ended up in the ICU for 8 days. Not fun.
Oh, wow.
I had an abscess in the back of the neck, and the problem with the back of the neck is you don't see it, and it just kind of blew up and whatever.
Yeah.
And at the time, this podcast was around episode 460, 470, give or take. And I'd been running my agency for 14 years. And I looked at Tiz and said, "You know what? I'm so frustrated. Maybe I should pack it in. Maybe I
Mm.
should quit the show. I should quit the business. I should retire. I should say I'm done." And she looked at me and said, "Really? And first of all, you'll drive me nuts. So don't do that." That's the first thing. But
Yeah.
second of all, think about how bored you're going to be and think about how unhappy and miserable you're going to be. And, a couple of days later, I kind of figured that out and realized, yeah, I got to keep going. So, to give you an idea, this next week, I'll drop episode 670. So, the show's in good health and everything else. But it's funny when things get in the way and you have somebody supportive in your life who understands what means stuff to you. It makes a big difference when you
Yeah.
go down that
Oh,
road.
yeah. 100%. And I'm very, very grateful for my wife and how supportive she's been over the years, especially in the early days when it was really tough.
Yeah, our
So,
days are
yeah.
tough.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
are
And,
days where you get off the phone, and I'm sure you've done it. You'll never say it to a client, and it's like, "Oh crap. How did that conversation go that way? And how did this happen?" I'm sure you've had days like that because I
yeah.
have them.
Yeah.
And
It
I
happens.
get off, and it's like, and she'll look at me and she'll say, "What's wrong, Rob?" I said, "Oh, this happened this way, and it shouldn't have." And you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I we haven't talked much about like sales and stuff like
Yeah.
that sort of business growth, but this reminds me of a client I had. She was an executive coach. So this is a handful of years ago. Um, she was working a ton and she came to a coaching session once and said, Jason, I got to ask you, how do you handle your PETA clients? And I was
Fire
like,
them. Fire them.
Well, at first I had to think about that because I thought she meant the environmental group. It didn't even resonate. And then once I figured out she meant a pain in the, oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I thought about it and I said, I don't have any of those anymore.
No.
I mean, and since then, it was several years ago. Since then, I've maybe had one or two here or there, but for the most part, because then she said, well, what do you mean you don't? And how do you do that? So that was a big part of then what we started working on
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
finding her sales and intake process, client selection process, and how you go about that. And if you have a good system built in and you are who you are throughout, you're not just trying to sell people, but you're being genuine, you're being yourself.
Yeah.
So they can taste it and know if this is going to be a fit. And you are assessing them. Is this going to be a good fit between us? And you have criteria that you're looking for, that stuff, it happens. It will still happen every once in a great while, but so infrequently. And I'm so, happy and honored and humbled that I've been able to build that out and make that so it's so rare. But I really love my clients and I don't take anyone who comes along, and I have a process to make sure it's going to be a good fit and they're going to get a ton out of it and I'm going to, really enjoy it too. But I think that's so
Yeah.
important.
It's not worth it. I think what you got to do, and I said didn't just fire them, but I'm serious. If the client, and things happen, like I know running a marketing agency, I deal with boards and they're
Mhm.
fun. And sometimes the board's makeup changes. And when the board's
Yeah.
makeup changes, maybe the values that were aligned for 10 years are not aligned anymore.
Hmm.
And maybe it's time to say, hey guys, maybe it's time we go our separate ways. You do it nicely, right? And say, hey,
Right.
this isn't a fit anymore.
Exactly.
Let's think about it. And
Yeah.
I think you got to do that because one of the things, and you give me the great segue into where I wanted to go, and thank you for that,
Oh, you're
is
welcome.
we got to take care of as an entrepreneur or business owner our heads and our mental health. And
Yeah.
if you've got PETA clients and you're filled to that, your mental health is going to dive real quickly. It makes it hard. If you're getting up in the morning and you're hating dealing with your clients, you're hating looking at your email, you're hating your business, then there's
Hmm.
something wrong. That's
Yeah.
the first thing. And what I always say to people ask me, and how do you deal with it? I said, it's easy. And they said, what do you mean it's easy? And I said to them, do you know I talk to a therapist every month, whether I need to or not? And
Mm.
they looked at me and said, why? And my thing was, I said, do you go to a doctor for physical regularly? Yes. Do you go see your doctor for regular appointments if you're diabetic to check your sugar? I sure do. So why aren't you looking at the most important organ in your life, and that's the brain?
Yeah. 100%. Yep.
So that's
Yeah.
how I treat that.
And you know, so for me, I've been doing this 20 years
Yeah.
and coaching, and the training I went through to get started was incredible, and
Mm.
feel, again, really honored and blessed to be able to do
Yeah.
that and get that background. And then as I learned and kept going, you come across more and different
Of course.
things. And along the mental health issue, one thing I came across early on, but then I really got into it about 13 years ago, is I became a multi-certified energy healing master.
Oh, that's awesome.
And oh, thank you.
I
Yeah. And
I love that.
some people are like, what? And other,
Oh, I know what that is. I love it.
okay.
Yeah.
And that because the mental health is so important and you can't move forward if you're stuck. If you have, and most of the times what gets us stuck are these subconscious emotional blocks: fear,
Hmm.
doubt, stress, worry, indecision, procrastination, imposter
Yes.
syndrome,
Yes.
all
Yes.
that stuff. Whether we're, trying to get our team to do better and be more so we can take work off our plate and
Yeah.
scale, or you're just
Yeah.
trying to make a really great sale to somebody that you see as an out of reach client and you're feeling quite nervous about it. Either way, and there's a host of other, we talked before about our other personal relationships when that crap comes up,
Hmm.
and you get really stuck and you start feeling, if you're in a bad relationship, especially, you start feeling smaller and smaller about yourself, and that really affects your
Yeah.
confidence.
Yeah.
So I learned these techniques and these tools that I use with my clients that help them to get past these blocks very quickly, sometimes in a matter of minutes, sometimes even in seconds. And I've heard from a lot of clients that some of the blocks that we've been able to get them past are stuff that they've been working on with their therapist for years, and made some headway a little bit, but couldn't. I was working with another leadership coach as a client, and she was trying to decide on a business strategy. She'd been trying for 2 years to make this decision, and it got stuck all the time. And during one of our sessions, because it was about marketing and branding, and direction and perfect client attraction. And I said, well, let's clear this out. And we used some of the techniques that I used. In about 15 minutes, it was like gone, and she was clear and she knew exactly what to do. And she stopped. She goes, "Oh my God, Jason, you're some kind of wizard or something." It was like, it was
No,
great.
you just put it in a way that she could connect with you. And that's half the battle.
Yeah.
And maybe your therapist had gone there and she didn't get it, but it was the way you presented it because you found that opening and you took it. I have to ask you a question. Something I'm big on. Do you believe in journaling?
Um, I believe it's very helpful for some people. I don't do it myself.
You know,
I never really got going with it. Maybe I
yeah,
should. I mean, I've tried a little bit here and there. My wife is throughout her life has been a tremendous journaler, and it's incredibly therapeutic for her.
yeah,
Um, so I like with anything, I say, hey, if it works for you and you do it and you love it,
do it,
do it, do
do it.
it,
S-
100%.
So, like Tiz, my partner, she doesn't journal. She's tried. I've said to her, I'll even do a journal with you. I said
Mm,
we can do it however you want. No, can't get her to do it. And then there's me, and I've been journaling every day for 30 years. So
okay.
I
Yeah.
don't miss very often. And for the same reasons as your wife. The other
Yeah.
thing, and I know we're talking a little bit about personal stuff, but it matters from the business perspective because if your personal life's happy, your business life's way better off. We all know that.
Right.
I do, and we do religiously every month. We go for a massage together.
Nice.
So we do a couples massage. We were at one on Saturday, and she says to me, "You are the worst company in a massage going because I fall asleep on the table, so I'm done. The minute the ther we do couples massages for those who don't know, they do both of you with two separate attendants in the same room. And
Right.
I'm like out like a light after about
Yeah.
5 minutes, and
Yeah.
it's
I
like
love
this every
massages.
time. Yeah, yeah. But what I'm saying is that worked for us, but
Yeah.
maybe listening to music for an hour helps. Maybe doing something else helps. So do what you got to do to take care of you because you can't take care of you. You can't take care of your business.
100%. Yeah. One thing that I do is I don't know if you're familiar with Qigong.
I am. Yep.
Oh, you are?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So yeah, I've been doing Qigong for 13 years,
Good.
and I try to do it every day. I don't always get to it, but it is such, and actually another fun story. Um, and I hope my wife won't be mad when she hears this. We got, and you and I before we were talking about our different phones and types of phones that we had and stuff.
Yeah. Of course.
Um, so when we let's see, so this is going back about 10 years ago. She got a new Samsung Galaxy phone, and I was still on the older model. And I had seen
Uh-oh.
a commercial where it said there's like a sensor on it, you can measure different health stuff.
Yeah. Of course.
And I said, well, let's play with that and see. She's like, really? She didn't hear about that. So she grabbed her phone and touch the sensor on the back and then go to the health app and measure the stress level. So you
Uh-oh.
hold it there for like 30 seconds or 60 or whatever it was. And it shows you a range. It's like complete green over here and complete red over here. And it's a spectrum in
Uh-oh.
between.
I see where this is going.
Now she is incredibly accomplished, very smart, hard
Yeah.
worker, great
Yeah.
leader. She's in leadership, in her companies. Um, Manages people and does a fantastic. I have like my wife is incredible on so many areas, professional and personally. Just such an incredible person, great woman. Just I am so lucky and so much in love with her.
Yeah.
And she grabbed her phone and held down the sensor, and the thing went
Yep.
over to the
I
red
knew that was
area. And then she said, well, of course, everyone's stressed these days, you know. And then she goes, here, you try it. I'm like, okay. So I grabbed
right.
the phone, press down to like solid green. And she got mad. She's like, how is that possible? And the first thing that popped in my head is I bet anyone who does Qigong regularly is in the green,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Whatever works for you.
Whatever it
Uh,
is, but that's a
yeah.
great one to do. Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, you've dealt with a lot of clients. What industry is the hardest for you to coach out of? Or does it? I know you're gonna say it depends, but is there
No, no,
a
I'm not.
trend or
This time I won't say depends. The hardest industry for me to, this is so, and this is so ironic.
Mm,
Um, retail,
okay.
retail.
Yeah.
And the reason is, so I was at a Chamber of Commerce meeting probably about 12 years ago. And I was speaking with this gentleman. He said, what do you do? And I said, well, I work with small business owners and help them to double or triple in 6 to 12 months and cut their work hours. He's like, oh my God, I need that so badly. I said, well, what kind of work do you do? He said, I own a specialty gift shop in
Yep.
town. I was like, oh, okay. I said, well, so what are some of the challenges that you're facing? He's like, well, all my staff are kids, they're all teenagers, and they don't do what I ask them to do or tell them to do. They
Of
don't
course not.
show up. Their parents will call them in sick. So what do I do? And I was like, oh man, I don't know. I mean, other than having conversations with them and trying to get them on the right track, because I focus on helping professional service providers who have adults as employees who want to improve themselves, want to move up in
Hmm.
their career, want to, if they're in sales, want to sell more, want to be better representatives of the company, they want to grow professionally. So motivating them is quite different. It's not always easier, but it's different. And my skill set in being in management and leadership in the corporate world and in small business, that's what I lean into. And so I said, I mean, yes, I could give you some tips on how to have conversations and how to ask coaching like questions, but it also doesn't appeal that much to me to work with somebody like that as a client, because I prefer this other type of
Yeah,
business.
I understand. I
Yeah.
understand that. It's hard.
So,
Retail's hard. I have two good friends of mine who own a well-known in the Greater Toronto area a jewelry store,
mhm.
and they own it. They co-own it, so they're married and working together. I don't know if
Okay.
I like that idea personally, but that's
Yeah.
another story. And they've done it for years, and they do well, but it has its challenges. Like retail's hard. It's like, when do you take a day off? When do you manage this? When do you
Right.
manage that? How do you do? And the
Yeah.
world of COVID changed so much about retail. Like 6 years ago, it wasn't even funny, and
Mm.
that
Yeah.
just changed a lot. So I think retail is really hard. And then we got to challenges in retail of, how do you compete with the Walmarts and the Amazons and the Home Depots who all do delivery?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't set foot in a Walmart or a Home Depot in probably 5 years. So,
Hmm.
not that I haven't bought anything from them. I said I haven't set foot in them. There's a big
Okay.
difference, right?
Yeah.
But you get what I'm saying. The challenges
Oh, yeah.
are there, and it's hard. And
Yeah.
I get where this person was coming from, because what drives me nuts is, I walk into a store in a mall, and there is a young person behind the counter, and they're more interested in their cell phone than servicing the customer walking in the door.
Right.
My
Yeah.
problem is, I'm the type who turns around and walks out the door. I'm
Yeah.
gone. It's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the big areas that I find myself focusing on with small business owners is language,
Yes.
communication.
Yes.
And what that brought to mind is I went into my bank a couple weeks ago,
Hmm.
and the teller, my wife and I were having this conversation a few days before that about just, and I was having conversations with other clients about it, about, is hey an appropriate word, whether it's in business or in your personal life? Instead of saying hi, hello, when you see someone, go hey. And there's different thoughts, but we were talking about that. So I walked into this and I said, well, yeah, but not in a professional relationship. I just wouldn't
Hmm.
do that. I wouldn't go hey to my client or potential client or anyone professionally. I walked into the bank, and instead of saying, may I help the next person, the girl looks up and goes, hey. I was like, what? I
I
couldn't
know
believe
that's
it.
right.
I was blown away.
And there's ways to handle that. Like I walk into my bank and I know the tellers and I know the manager. And the manager will look at me and say, "Hi, Rob, how are you today?"
Yeah.
And people look at her and say, "Did she just address you by your first name?" And I'm like, "Yeah." But we have a
Mm,
relationship. And you understand that too. And
yeah.
then I've got other clients, and one's a hotel chain. I won't share which one. I think I've told you. But I'll go into the hotel, and the first time Tiz was with me, it was like, "Hi, Mrs. Maroney, how are you?" He had met her, but he knew she was traveling with me. And
Okay.
she looked at me like, "What?" But this was the manager of the hotel too, who I
Yeah.
knew quite well, and he was being respectful. So you
Yeah.
got it's all, you know what I mean? It's all how you deal with and where the relationship is, I think. That's the more important thing.
Hmm.
And I think that's what people don't realize. Like I
Yeah.
say stuff to people, and sometimes those people are senior people, and someone will look at me and say, "Did you just say that?" And I'll say, "Yeah, I did."
Right.
Because I know what I can say and what I can't say.
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
can
Yeah.
remember years ago, I was running a meeting in healthcare, and my CTO, Chief Technology Officer, walked in. I looked at him and
Mhm.
said, "Hey Sam, you know your BlackBerry goes in that box at the front of the room." He looked at me and said, "My BlackBerry?" And I said, "Yes, sir, because you're not exempt from anybody else in this room. Check your device, please." And he just looked at me. And somebody looked at me coming out and said, "How did you get away with that?" And I said, "The relationship." It's all about relationships.
Yeah.
If you have trust level, it's all about that, right?
Right. Yeah. 100. Yeah. Absolutely. 100%. And again, how do you develop a relationship is through great communication and
Yep.
creating a shared reality through how speak and how you act. Like everything you do is communicating something, whether it's verbal, whether it's inaction, action, all of that, you're creating shared reality.
And not
So,
just reaching into your out to your customers when you have to do something salesy. Reach out because you haven't talked to them in a while. Reach
right.
out because you think you can help them. Reach out for a tip.
Yeah.
One of the things I do is I have two newsletters, one for the general public, one for customers. My customers get an update on stuff every 2 weeks, whether they need it or not. It just
Okay.
goes. Because I don't like out of sight, out of mind. That is not a good idea as far as I'm
Right.
concerned.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
some of that.
Agreed.
Um, so we've talked about a pile of stuff. If you were to give somebody in a couple minutes a couple quick tips on where to start making their self a little better, where would you start? Give me three.
Let's see. Tips on making themselves better
Yeah, or the business better
or the business
or
better.
everything else.
Yeah, I would say, the first step. So we've said before, like one size doesn't fit all. Everything is
Yep.
really customizable. That said, I think this one is really important and it should be the first one, is have a really good vision for what you want your business to look like, your life inside and outside your business to look like. Because it's like putting a puzzle together. The pieces are the strategy and the action steps, and it's hard to put those together if you don't know what the picture on the outside of the box is supposed to
Yep.
be.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
that's where it starts. That's the first thing. Second thing is figure out what the challenges are, and then figure out are those things that you want to do, or is that something that somebody else should do? Going back to, living and
Agreed.
working in your passion areas, things that you do the best, you get the best return and results on for your time, your money, and your energy.
Yep.
And then
I agree
delegate,
with.
train people really well, open communication. I mean, I did this, and then we said before about optimize your environment. So making
Mhm.
sure that's really smooth. Relationships are good. You have systems, processes, automation. And then the last part is your mindset. And we talked about
Yeah.
that, the psychology behind your
Yeah.
internal environment, making that clear. When you do all those areas, and they don't all go in order, the order changes depending on what you need and what's challenging. But so, for instance, I worked with a client who owns a web design and development firm. We worked together for 6 months. He was doing way too much work, not delegating enough, He had a team of 20 contractors, designers and developers, but he didn't fully trust them because they would be late on assignment. There would be errors in their work. He would have to fix stuff. He's like, it's just quicker for me to do, especially the really high level important client work. But he was working 6, 7 days a week and doing all-nighters to get client work out with a team that he could delegate to. So we worked on his communication as a leader and how to get, manage those people up so that those problems didn't exist anymore. Work on his internal environment, his trust of himself as a leader, and his confidence in his team to do the work and do it well. And then we worked at his organizational structure and made some tweaks and changes there. Inside of 6 months, his business grew by 105%. So he doubled his revenue. His work hours went from 70 hours a week down to 35 hours a week.
Oh, wow.
And he got to stay home a lot more and spend time with his family.
Yeah. And nobody's going to look at it and say, you're a great guy. You work 70 hours a week versus the time with the kids, the time with the wife, the time with, you get it. Yeah.
Exactly. And the funny, this is one of the stories that tickle me the most of my coaching. He came to one of his sessions, we were about 4 months in out of this 6-month engagement. Yeah. And I said, well, what were your wins since we spoke? I start all my sessions with asking my clients, what were your wins? What good things happened since we spoke last?
Yeah, of course.
And he said, well, I bought a restaurant. And I was like, you bought a restaurant? What? Because this was not something when we planned out his goals and when we started, there was no restaurant mentioned. And I said, what are you talking about? What happened? He said, I've always wanted a restaurant. He had no background in restaurant, right? He said, I've always wanted a restaurant. One became available. I've never had the time or money before, but now because of our work together, I do. So I bought it.
Bingo.
And I was like, okay, so let's roll that. And then he, hired a good manager and got somebody else to run it. And it was just part of his portfolio, and he just kept growing. And these kinds of stories, these kinds of outcomes are pretty normal that I see with business owners who I work with. So it's not surprising, but I mean, it was really funny. But but when you do those things, you take those steps, you focus in those areas, that's what happens.
Yeah, so true. Jason, this conversation's been amazing. I hope some people really take to heart what you and I talked about. I think we share a lot of the same views, no question. We share a lot of the same feelings. If somebody wants to get a hold of you about some coaching, how's the best way?
Great. Thanks for asking. I love helping people, so please do reach out.
Me too.
Yeah, go to my website, distinctivecoaching.com. You can get, you connect with me on socials there. You can join my newsletter. You can actually book a call for us to chat. Is it okay if I give the listeners a gift?
Sure.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. So what I do is when I have some open coaching slots, which I do right now, and I don't always, I like to do a complimentary business breakthrough coaching session. And so I'd like to offer this to the listeners because what I do is normally I charge $500 for it. And if, like I said, I've got a couple open slots right now. So if you're listening to this podcast, what I want you to do is go to my website and click on book a call. And it's a 30-minute slot on your calendar. It might only take 10, 15 minutes, but what we'll do is just have a quick conversation, see if this coaching session that I'm talking about would be a good fit for you. And what we do during that session is we'll talk about your business, where you are now, where you'd absolutely love to be a year from now, what your perfect ideal income, lifestyle, support, what that all looks like, and even your ultimate success further down the road, what you want your business to be. We'll uncover the challenges and even the hidden blind spots that could be slowing you down or sabotaging your efforts to get there. And then I'll help you to create a really motivating and energizing 3-stage plan to move forward over the coming year to achieve your goals faster than you thought possible. And through that process, I'll get to know more about you, your business, see if I think there's a good fit for us to work together further. You'll get some coaching from me, experience that, get some immediate results and see what that's like. And at the end of the session, if I see there's a really good fit to work together and I know that I can help you to knock it out of the park, then I'll ask you if you'd like to talk about the options of working together. And if you don't, no worries. If you do, we'll do that. If I don't think there's a fit to work together longer term, I'll let you know that, and try to give some other resources or, people who can help. I know I'm not the right coach for everybody and I don't want to be, but, I like going through this process. So anyway, if you'd like to have that coaching session with me, go to my website, click on book a call, distinctivecoaching.com. And then where it says, how'd you hear about us? Put in Rob Podcast. And when I see that, I know that I'll waive the $500 fee for you.
Okay,
And again, if we, so it's like yeah, like I said, it books for 30 minutes. This will just be a short call, maybe 10 to 15 minutes, just to make sure that longer session will be a good use for you, because I'm all about time management and efficiency.
Yep.
And, for both of us, I don't want to get on a call when it's just a bad fit. They're looking for something else. They're looking for somebody to help them build Facebook ads. Like, that's not me,
That's not you.
So, yeah. So I'd love to do that. And then if you want to get in touch in any other way, feel free to reach out.
Thank you for that. And thank you for your time today, Jason. I hope
Thank
you
you.
stay well. Jason from Chicago, Rob from the center of the universe in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Have a great day. Bye. Bye for now.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks again to our sponsor, All-in-One WP Migration by ServeMask. Export your entire WordPress site in one click, import it anywhere. No server access needed, no command line, works with every hosting provider. Free on WordPress.org or extension at servemask.com. A very special thank you to Jason for joining me on this edition of the SDM Show. The SDM Show is dedicated to my late father, Bruce Cairns. Dad, I miss you very much every day. My mother, Ann Cairns, who's still doing really well and is an inspiration. And of course, Tiz Maroney. And Tiz, I know I've said it, but thank you so much for all the inspiration you give me every day.